Hello children, today we are going to discuss The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. It is a poem from class 9. About the poet, Robert Lee Frost, March 26, 1874 to January 29, 1963, was an American poet. His work was initially published in England before it was published in the United States. Known for his realistic depictions of rural life and his command of American colloquial speech, Frost frequently wrote about settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century, using them to examine complex social and philosophical themes. Notable works: A Boy's Will, North of Boston. Notable awards: Pulitzer Prize for Poetry, Congressional Gold Medal. Spouse: Eleanor Mariam White. About the poem, The Road Not Taken was written by Robert Frost as a joke for his friend, poet Edward Thomas. When they went for walks, Thomas would be indecisive about which road they would choose, and often lament about the road not chosen. The Road Not Taken is a narrative poem by Robert Frost, published in 1916 as the first poem in the collection Mountain Interval. Its central theme is the divergence of paths, both literally and figuratively, although its interpretation is noted for being complex and potentially divergent. The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller long I stood, and looked down as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first one for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Summary. The poet is in a dilemma as he stands in the woods, at a fork in the road, trying to decide which path to choose. He cannot find much difference in them, as both are equally worn and equally covered with leaves not trodden upon. Choosing one, the poet assures himself that he will walk the other one another day. Yet it is known to him that he may not get that opportunity. The poet says that in the distant future he may regret his decision. He would recollect the day when he chose the road less traveled, which has made a big difference in his life. Stanza-wise explanation. Stanza 1. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Diverged means separated and took a different direction. Yellow wood means a forest with yellow leaves during autumn. Undergrowth means dense growth of plants and bushes in the forest floor. Once the poet was walking through a forest where he came across a fork from which he had to choose one. The poet says that being alone, he could choose only one path out of the two. By yellow wood, he means a forest which is full of yellow leaves, which is a sign of the autumn season. The poet stood at the divergence for long, unable to decide which path to take. He studied one of the paths as far as his sight could go until there was a curve where it was covered with trees and shrubs which blocked his view. Our life is very similar to the situation that the poet seems to face here. Often we come across such dilemmas where we have to choose from many alternatives. We like to take time to think before we make our decision. We wish to know the end result of our choices, but it is not always possible to picture the path ahead. We take time to think about the positive or negative impact it might make, and only then we make our choices. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. Fair means as good as the other one, claim means better option, grassy is unused, and wanted wear means had not been used. The poet took his time to observe one path to check if it was correct for him or not, and then decided to choose the other one and started to walk on it as he thought that it was a better option. He further adds that the path he chose seemed a better option because it looked as though it was unused. Not many people had walked on it, and therefore it seemed more grassy and wanted to be walked upon. Later he realizes that both the paths are more or less the same. In our life, where we have to choose a path or option among many, we choose one thinking that we are making the best choice. But every path we choose, every choice we make, comes with its own difficulties and challenges. It is up to us how we face the challenges and keep moving ahead. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Trodden means walked over. On that morning, the poet says that both paths looked the same to him. Both were equally covered in leaves that no one had stepped on and hence had not turned black. He took one path thinking that he would take the other some other day, even though he knew that one way leads to another. He knew within that he will not be able to come back and walk on the other path again. Similarly, once we choose an option, we have to keep on moving in life. Life does not give us a second chance to go back and change our choices in the past. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Sigh means deep breath, hence, here in the future. The poet says that years later he would be saying with a deep breath that once he had come to a wood where there were two paths ahead, and he had decided to take the one which lesser people chose to travel upon, and that decision of his has shaped his future. Similarly, when we are older, we think of all the choices we made in the past as those choices decide our future. It is therefore important to take our time and think before we make a choice in our lives, as that might make all the difference in the future. Literary devices. Rhyme scheme AB AAB. Symbolism. Two roads represent two or more choices in life. Anaphora. And is repeated at the beginning of lines 2, 3, and 4. Alliteration. W sound is repeated in wanted where. F sound is repeated in first for. The sound is repeated in though, that. Repetition. Ages is repeated. Two roads diverged in a wood. The sentence is repeated in stanzas 1 and 4. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video with a new lesson. Bye-bye.